Well, hello, and welcome to the MilVet Podcast. Your podcast hosts are Brendan Aronson, Tim Shaw, and Beau Higgins. We are military veterans, entrepreneurs, and investors. But most importantly, we strive to empower military service members, veterans, and their families. We believe that all veterans deserve a career that fires them up, a career in which you can learn, you can earn, and you can build a world class network. On this podcast, we interview civilian and military veteran leaders who are incredible founders, writers, thinkers, and investors. My primary goal is to inspire you to achieve great things. Let's dive into today's episode. Hello, and welcome to another edition of the MilVet Podcast. I'm your host, Beau Higgins, and I have the pleasure to be joined by Ryan McMorrow today. We'll talk to Ryan a little bit about his journey from the military into the private equity space. But excited for those that are joining in the podcast, and those who are not maybe familiar with the MilVet. The MilVet helps veterans provide executive pathway into private equity and venture capital-backed opportunities. We also have the podcast, support transition in general, are here to help those veterans that are looking to transition, again, primarily into the VCPE space, but also just providing some pointers and good tips, facts for those that are transitioning. I encourage you to sign up for the MilVet newsletter. Go to themilvet.org to sign up, and there's a lot of good information there for anyone out there. But today, our guest, again, is Ryan McMorrow. And Ryan, over to you for a quick intro.
Yeah, thanks, Beau. And I encourage your audience to sign up as well. The MilVet is an awesome organization that we're excited to be partnering up with. Thanks, Beau. I'm a senior vice president at Vista Equity Partners. I invest in B2B software companies. Vista, just for your audience, for those who aren't familiar, is the largest private equity fund in the world that invests exclusively in B2B software. We've been doing it for 25 years, and where we really specialize is in helping our companies grow by adding operational value to our companies. So we do that through a number of ways, but really what underpins it is our operational best practice, our best practices, as we call them, paired with our value creation team, which is our own captive consulting group to help implement those best practices at scale. 90 companies in the portfolio today, and I specifically sit in our Endeavor Fund, which is our growth fund at Vista, based in San Francisco. 3 boys, ages 7, 5, and 16 months. My poor wife, she's got a lot of testosterone in the house, but it's a lot of fun. And military veteran, spent 6 years in the Navy, got out, transitioned back in 2014, but we'll get into that, I'm sure, later in the podcast.
Yeah, that's awesome. And again, as a guy that has 5 kids, I can appreciate it. They're kind of a sweet spot, 75. They can at least get themselves dressed. The little one not quite there yet, but I get it, man. I've been there.
Yeah.
But yeah, awesome. But I mean, always curious and love to share the stories, because everybody's journey to where they are today is a little bit different. And for a SWO to get to where you are now is maybe a little atypical. You know, it's not what everyone does, but I can't wait to hear how that all started, and would love to kind of go back to the beginning. And, you know, obviously you're a Naval Academy grad. What was the kind of the impetus for you to join the Academy? Were you like a military guy from like age 5 with your dad? Everybody has a story. I'm curious what your fired the spark up to go to the Academy.
Well, mine's a combination of family plus Top Gun. So I grew up in a family with just deep military connections. Both of my grandfathers, grandfather on my dad's side, grandfather on my mom's side, served. My grandfather on my mom's side was a naval officer in World War II. I was surrounded by pictures of him with his crew. It's crazy. Like back in World War II, he was 23 years old, commanded his own ship, had a team of 30 sailors, participated in all the invasions in Iwo Jima and all over the Western Pacific, and always thought, oh my gosh, that's amazing. And then on my dad's side, my grandfather was a chief master sergeant in the Air Force, Irish immigrant. The military literally built our family on the McMorrow side. And, you know, the combination of those two things, plus 2 uncles that served in the Army and Air Force, I just came from a family that prioritized service, country before self. And it was always just like at the core of our DNA and how I was raised. Went to air shows, loved looking at jets, which naturally segues. I did see Top Gun as well. So I was like, oh, if I want to go in the military, I want to be a naval fighter pilot. And the Naval Academy came about because I'm kind of a nerd. I'm a very goal-oriented person. I think I had a conversation with my dad when I was like 7 or 8 years old where I was like, Dad, if I want to be a naval fighter pilot, like, how do I go do that? And he's like, well, if you go to one of the service academies, your odds of getting what you want to do are a little bit better. So I was like, okay, great. Let's do that. And then once I was at Navy, I tried to do all the things that I could to ensure, the best chance possible that I could become a fighter pilot. So anyways, that's the story.
No, that's a good one, man. Family plus knowing at a young age, and Top Gun. I mean, Top Gun, I think probably was the best recruiting out there for the Navy for many years. So that's pretty funny.
Totally.
Good stuff.
Yeah.
Good stuff. Well, we'd love to talk a little bit about your time at the academy because folks that went there, obviously, I don't. It wouldn't have worked for me. I don't think I had the discipline to do it, to be candid. But I mean, what do you think, or what do you take away from your time at the academy that set you
Yeah.
up for success, not only in your time in the Navy, but even beyond that?
Yeah. Well, I think the first thing that always comes to mind at the academy is it's a great place to be from, but not a great place to be at. I'm so glad I did it, but while I was there, I mean, it was painful. I had so many friends that were some going in the military, some not, but doing it at civilian schools. And man, I'd be lying if I didn't have many times where I said, God, I wish I was doing that instead of all the hard work here. But it was an amazing place. It's certainly not for everyone, but I think for me, that again, it's a very goal-oriented person, came from a culture of like country before self-sacrifice, personal sacrifice is kind of just how you orient your life. 4 years by the Bay, though it was painful, like it was an incredibly life fulfilling experience for me, being there 17 to 21 years old. A few of the lessons that really stuck out with me that I wouldn't have learned otherwise. I love the quote, pain is weakness leaving the body. Like I remember going through plebe summer and hearing that over and over and over again. And, I think it's an important lesson to learn early in life. Like you have to embrace the suck, and there is beauty in that. There is value to be built in your life by just kind of sacrificing your comfort in order to build a higher cause, whether it's to, become a better person, become more physically fit, enable a team to accomplish a goal. That was really awesome. The man in the arena, this is another one. I remember we had to memorize this during plebe summer. I think it really instilled in me just the sense that it's better to always be the doer and a person of action than an observer. And so if there's a fire, if there's, an emergency, I'm not going to be the one looking around. I'm going to be the one solving the problem. And I think that's really benefited me a lot, both in my time in the military and outside. And then that kind of segues like be a leader, like lead. Always look for opportunities to lead and to add value. And I think especially in the civilian world, that quality, of like extreme ownership, to use Jocko Willink's book and podcast. I mean, it's such a great quote that I think, I kind of like lived in a laboratory of that for 4 years. Having a mission-oriented hierarchy, like shipmate self, I talk about that a lot in private equity, to just really instill like you've got to like be dedicated to the mission first, and you've got to be dedicated to the team, and then prioritize yourself after all those things are taken care of. And I think just having that hierarchy beaten into me literally 4 years of the academy was huge. And then of course just having a values oriented education around honor, courage, and commitment, and all that entails. Like I'm so proud to have had that experience and that orientation early on. So, But again, good place to be from, not a good place to be at. I definitely would not be saying these things if I was a plebe right now at the
Yeah,
academy.
I have one of my fraternity brothers in college, sons there, just finished his plebe summer, or I guess finished the plebe part of it, But
Yeah,
yeah, he definitely was. It was an eye opener for sure. It hasn't
yeah,
changed much in that regard. It was a good thing. It was a good thing. But
yeah, yeah,
you take away from that, it's the grit, right? It's that ability to
yeah,
push through when you don't have the resources, when you don't think you can do it, but you got the guy on the left and you're right of you, and you just do it because that's embrace the suck. I mean, that is the Marine Corps mantra, certainly,
yeah,
and you
100%.
got to have that, man. That's for sure. And I love the leadership piece, and it's not just always stepping up to be the leader, which is part of it, but I think you hit on it as well as the servant leadership first
Yeah,
piece, right? It's not just being a leader; it's taking care of your people first. And if you take care of them, they'll take care of
yes,
you. I mean, obviously, you're bringing that to where you are today. That's the bedrock that gets founded, at the academy, which is awesome, which is
totally.
amazing, and obviously sets a lot of folks up for success in whatever they do, post academy or post military career. But love that.
That. Yeah.
And I guess I'd love to hear kind of too. I mean, what were some highlights of your active duty time that you might want to share with us?
Oh, yeah. So I didn't become a fighter pilot.
What happened
Uh,
there? What was the story on
my,
that?
yeah, my man. So I was an aeronautical engineering major. Again, wanted to ensure my chances of selecting pilot. I selected pilot my second class year at the academy. Even got eight rides in an F-18 in my senior year summer training. Was so close, but then I had my last eye exam. I had PRK surgery my senior year at the academy, and I missed one letter with my eyes
Oh,
dilated. I know. It was
oh,
brutal. It was so brutal, but this is life, right? Like, fast forward, how many years ago was that now? 15, 17 years later, can't imagine my life taking a different course. Like, I became a surface warfare officer. I went to San Diego. I was stationed on a high hull numbered ship, so a brand new ship out of Pascagoula. Great crew, awesome wardroom, who to this day are still my brothers. Like, I just went on a golf trip with them out, in the high plains, just northeast of Denver. And I met my wife, and now we have three boys. And like, it was an amazing, amazing experience. But it was rooted in heartache in not becoming a fighter pilot. But I guess that just encapsulates like pain's weakness leaving the body, embrace the suck, right? Like, there's great things to come from that. And I certainly learned that early with becoming a service warfare officer, but it was awesome. So I was on USS Kidd, DDG 100, checked on board summer 2008. And within 9 months, we were deploying and doing a deployment to the Western Pacific. Um, I think the thing that I miss most about it, well, there's a few things. One is just being like tip of the spear. And, I think it's like absolutely amazing to be a young, junior officer or junior enlisted. You're not far out of high school or college, and you're being thrust into these events that can really have cataclysmic outcomes for national security. And I can remember one of the first missions we went on, we did a sail through the Spratly Islands, which was back in 2009, highly contested, still is to this day, with the Chinese Navy. We had a showdown with a Chinese Liu Yang destroyer where we were protecting and guarding a surveillance ship. And, this Liu Yang was kind of harassing them. We came down at 30 knots from Japan, and we protected them for 30 days. And I remember waking up on the bridge every single day and looking across and thinking, man, one wrong move and we could create an international incident. This would not be good. But so much power and responsibility in your hands so early in life is an amazing thing. That's one thing. We did hostage rescue operations in the Western Pacific. I can't talk too much about it even to this day, but like, worked with the Navy SEALs and Naval Special Warfare to rescue a husband and wife who had been kidnapped and were being held hostage. Like, amazing, amazing experience to be a part of that. and to be overseas doing that. And then I led on both of my ships our visit board search and seizure teams. And counter piracy was all the rage back then. So we did a bunch of boarding operations, you know, ranging from like working with small dhows from people, you know, from India and Somalia who are being harassed by pirates, all the way up to commercial vessels, and, you know, leading that small team of like highly trained individuals on our ships who were trained in close quarters combat and all of that, and doing that overseas and having the high adrenaline moments where you were literally rescuing these people overseas. It was an amazing experience and very formative. And then the last thing that I loved doing was, you know, training other navies and how to do that job overseas too. And just, you know, it wasn't like, wasn't kinetic, it wasn't high stress, but it was also building relationships with our international partners abroad and empowering them to do the mission that we were sent overseas to do. So incredible opportunities, loved doing it, loved deploying, didn't love being away from my wife for 10 months at a time, which is a big reason why I got out. But man, when I look back in my 20s, I'm so proud of what I did and the missions and purpose that I served over there.
That's awesome. No, some great stories and just great foundational experiences of life, and impressive too to be able to take, I'm sure, the punch in the gut, not to be able to fly. I mean, that was something you had pursued for some time, and then to be that close is tough. But to be able to rally behind it and have such an amazing career, not be bitter about it, and put your head down, but say, okay, this is, you know, one door closes, another door opens, you know, and,
Yep.
and to truly bloom and grow where you're planted, which is so important, because obviously it turned into something that maybe wasn't the plan you know, had envisioned, but end up being something obviously that set you up for success moving forward. And who knows what would have happened, you know, if you didn't have to, you know, that one door closed, another open. So it's amazing that you crushed that door and had a great run at it. But I love all of that and just the experiences you had. And again, you're so spot on. I mean, I think there's no place in the world where at age 24 or 25, you're in charge of, you know, 50 people, millions of dollars of equipment that literally, I mean, there's nothing like that. I mean, it's hard, I think, for civilian companies to appreciate, because, you know, they'll get a guy that has an MBA, but that's great. But what have you led? What have you really done? I mean, there's, you know, just that
It's
ability,
amazing.
that
Yeah.
the work with people, the leadership, the responsibility, true responsibility when bullets could be flying. It's a different
You're
world.
so you're so right. Yeah, I remember, you know, being a SWO. One of the big milestones in your career, your early career as a SWO, within your first year or two, is you get your officer of the deck qualification, which means I can literally command the ship from the bridge in the commanding officer's absence. If he's, you know, they have to work too. If they're down in their at sea cabin or whatever, I am the one who's personally responsible for the 400 lives on the ship and the safety of navigation of the ship, whether in peacetime or in war. And I can remember, you know, taking the ship out and having the bridge for the first time as a 24-year-old and sailing that thing across the Pacific and going into the open ocean right out of, you know, the harbor in San Diego, and just being struck by, oh my God, I can't believe they actually trust me with this.
Do they know me? Yeah.
Me?
They
But
sure?
yeah, but like just
Yeah.
awesome responsibility and just the knock-on effects that has for you in confidence building in your life, and you know, just all the positive benefits that come from it are just, it's amazing. It's an amazing thing to do.
Yeah, no,
For
it
me and
truly
for,
realize you can do
yeah,
anything. If you can do that, you can do anything. And I
yeah,
will, as a guy, I did 3 deployments on amphibs, and there is something about sailing under the Coronado Bridge and heading
I
out. I mean,
know.
it's like, whew,
It's
pretty cool, man. Game on, let's
pretty
go. You
cool.
know?
Yeah, it's pretty cool. Yeah, totally agree.
That's good stuff. Well, let's fast forward a little bit, and you alluded to a little bit about why you got out. Obviously, there's a family piece to it for sure, because being gone a long time is tough. But what was your kind of calculus on deciding to leave the
Yeah.
military. You obviously had a great run, but I think I always say when you know it's time, it's time. I mean, it doesn't matter if you've done 6 months or 40 years. At some point, everybody's career ends, and they have
Yeah.
different calculus in there. What was your kind of decision process to leave, and really would more want to dig into the
Yeah.
transition itself and how that went for you.
Yeah. 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 I think the big one was, so I met my wife in between my first and second deployment. And just one of those things where I just fell in love at first sight, and I knew. And we did an 11-month deployment when I was on Comstock, and I just missed her every day. And I knew that this equation only gets harder with kids. And coming back, like I was pretty confident that that was going to be my last deployment. I was going to spend the rest of my life with this woman, and we did get married 18 months later, and started having kids a few years after that. I wish we'd started having kids earlier, but that's a separate conversation, because kids are amazing. But yeah, I think that was the big one. It's not about me. It's about now my family and being present for my family. And I should say, so many people find a way to make that work, and hats off to them. I'm so happy that we have people that can figure out how to do that, and have spouses that can hold it all together when their loved ones are deployed. It was not the decision that I made, but I'm so thankful and proud for the people who do make that decision and stay in. It was also just the time for me to move on. You kind of mentioned it too. I mean, I loved being a SWO. I loved all that it entailed. There are also many things I didn't love that just drove me absolutely nuts. I think everybody feels that in the military. It is a big bureaucracy, and you do have to put up with a lot. And I did have this kind of grass is greener mindset about the civilian life, and just being out there and kind of striking out on my own, and doing something, in the commercial sector. Some of it proved to be true, some of it didn't. There's bureaucracy in most places you go in life, but it was time. I wasn't a fighter pilot. I was a SWO. I'm proud to have served my country in that context. It's not what I want to do for the rest of my life, and I felt like I'd given enough, and it was time to move on.
And how did you approach it? Did you use any services,
Yeah,
VSOs or MSOs, or what was your approach to
yeah,
transition? Everybody says TAP is broken or whatever, but I mean, it may or may not be, but it depends how you approach. But what was your approach to
yeah.
the transition? Yeah.
I thought TAPS was it was oriented really well to a certain sector of the economy. It was not necessarily the sector that I was looking to go into. I knew I needed some sort of transitional time. Like, I grew up in a military family. I really had no exposure to commercial pursuits, not really. And I just didn't even know what was out there. And so for me at the time, it was, well, why don't I go back to school? And so for me, it was a question of law school or business school. I started taking the LSAT, and I was complaining one day to my wife about it, and she's like, "Why are you even doing that? Like, you're a naval officer, like, you managed people. Like, why don't you go into business management and go get your MBA?" And I was like, "Well, okay, that's a good point. Why
You're
don't I
right.
go take the GMAT?" You're right, yeah. So yeah, I ended up taking the GMAT, and the more I learned about business school, I was like, this is perfect for me. It gives me the opportunity to kind of learn some hard skills. It gives me exposure to what others kind of in my peer group, in my age group, had done in the commercial world. So I can get smarter about what other opportunities are out there, and make a much more informed transition. I thought 2 years later. Turns out you need to decide a lot earlier than that in business school. But yeah, that's what I decided to do. So I applied. I went to University of Pennsylvania Wharton School of Business, which is an awesome program that really prioritizes veterans and has an amazing veterans program there. Mary Ellen Lamb, the dean of students there, really invests so much of her time with veterans, and I'm so thankful to her. And all the organization does to give veterans a great presence and voice there. And it was a great experience, awesome transitional experience for me.
Now that is great. I mean, I think it does also give you some white space to think a little bit. I mean, being in the military cycle, you don't have a lot of time to think about the future, I think. And certainly, obviously, getting your MBA it's hard, it's time consuming, but it's not
Yeah.
like in the military. You have
Yeah.
that time to figure out what you want to do in life. And how, well, so when you were there in getting your MBA, did you know you wanted to get into the PE space, or what was your journey
No,
to
I
get
had
there? Yeah.
I had no idea. I mean, I showed up on day one. I mean, I did a little bit of homework. Like I knew what private equity was by the time I was there, but I also was figuring out what investment banking was figuring out what general management was, the entrepreneurial track, and all of those things. And I was doing my best to just really have an open mindset and learn as much as I can, as quickly as I can. I will say, for those who are considering an MBA, it's not for everybody. I think there are many, many great opportunities that can come about just by going straight into industry afterwards. But if you're looking to make a hard pivot and go into something that you have no exposure into, it's a great time. And I think the biggest value prop of an MBA is exposure to your peer group. That becomes your network in the business world after you graduate. And I made some great friends early on, really in the summer during orientation, many of whom were in the private equity world, in the venture capital world. And I just went out and grabbed beers with them. And I was like just devouring information from them and asking questions. What's the life like? Why do you do it? What's the day to day entail? And pretty quickly, I realized that that's actually something that really interests me for a number of reasons that I can get into if interesting. But yeah, I decided like that was my new goal. Before it was be a fighter pilot. Now it's go be a private equity investor. And so like much like with fighter pilot, what are the steps I need to take and the milestones I need to take in order to make that happen? And let's go out and do those things. So that's what the mission became for me.
I love it. It's great that you figured out what the plan was and then put the plan in process to make it happen, which you've been able to do. And I couldn't agree more that the network, I heard Patrick Murphy say your network is your net worth, right?
Yes.
So, I mean, getting to know, you're having that network. And I think there's always this connotation of networking in the military as being somehow
It's
dirty or
it's a dirty word in the military.
it is. But
Yeah.
like, I always say, what do you think
Yeah.
everybody did in the Navy? Like, if you're on the ship, you had to know the dude that ran the galley and guy that ran this, and because you wanted to get a hookup. It's like, it's the hookup network. That's the network. It's like,
Totally.
that's network.
Yeah.
It's the same thing. You just call it something different, I don't know. It's weird how it gets this bad connotation in the
I
military. I think of networking is like,
I could
slimy. I
I
don't know.
could
Weird.
not I could not agree more. And all one of the things that I learned pretty early on is I think there are two dirty words in the military. One is networking and the other is selling or sales.
Mm,
And I truly believe your network is your net worth, and all life is sales. You're
yes.
selling yourself, you're selling an idea, you're selling a process, you're selling a vision. And I think learning those things early on in my time at Wharton and leveraging the power of the network, learning how to sell myself, right? And sell the things that I did in the military by translating it to organizations that I wanted to be hired into was like a game changing experience for me. I partnered up with a couple second year students who were veterans who had me practice my elevator pitch over and over and over and over again and get it down to 60 to 90 seconds to say, here's who I am, here's what I did, here's how I fit into your organization. And that opened so many more doors during interview processes than anything else I could have done, honestly, in my first year when I was in business school. So I agree with you. For your audience, your network is important. It's powerful. It gets more powerful as you advance in your career. And sales is not a dirty word. Like, figure out how to be a good salesperson, because that's how things in the world get done.
Yep, you're right. You're always selling yourself in some way, shape, or form. It's a trust bond because you have to sell
Yeah.
yourself, or you're selling an idea
Yeah.
or a concept you need other people to buy into. It's again, you're right. It shouldn't be a dirty word, but I think it does get some type of a negative connotation, unfortunately. But
Yeah.
you
Yeah.
figured it out, obviously, and did great with it. So when you finished up your MBA, just kind of walk us through how you
Sure.
got from that first
Yeah.
job to where you are now, and maybe some
Yeah.
things that you learned along the way that maybe you like, oh, wish I would have done that a little differently on the way. But I mean, obviously you landed,
Totally.
you've gotten to a
Yeah.
good place, but it's never a straight
Yeah.
line, you know?
Yeah. Yeah. Totally. Yeah. So going back to business school, the goal was private equity. So I created a roadmap for myself. And I think this is like lesson number one. Figure out what your goal is early on. Even if you're not sure it's exactly the thing that you want to do, having goals and being self-motivated to achieve those goals. Yes, it was important in the military, but the military kind of figures it out for you. Like, you get orders every couple years, you move to a new command, you give your preferences, but ultimately the military is going to
Yeah.
choose. Out in the commercial world, nobody's doing that for you.
Yep.
And so you've got to have some goal. So mine, the motivating factor for me in my first few years out of the military was, okay, private equity is the goal. So, like, how am I going to make it happen? I quickly, learned from my peer group, you've got to have a core set of skills in order to transition into that world. You can't just show up on day one and say, I'm ready to do deals, right? Like,
Right.
you've got to understand corporate finance. You've got to understand valuation. You've got to understand the capital markets. You need to understand how deals get done in the context of the capital markets, and how value is created, how people communicate value creation. And so for me, it was like, okay, how do I go build that skill set and the set of experiences so that I can show up on day one and add value to a private equity fund? And so for me, it was investment banking. Like, investment banking is designed to give people those core experiences on day one and have like a dedicated training program, which, again, coming from the military, whenever you go do something new, you go to a school, you have a training program to go figure it out. So I was like, great, I know that worked for me in the military. Let me go do that in investment banking. So for me, it was, what's the best investment bank in the world? I want to go there. And so I applied to a bunch, was fortunate to be picked up at Goldman Sachs in our San Francisco office here, and spent the better part of 2 years working for some amazing people in the organization. And oh, by the way, just shout out to Goldman. Goldman has done a lot of things for veterans over the years. One of the big things is they have a veterans integration program, which is designed for transitioning military veterans to give them internship opportunities straight out of the military so that they can start to build these experiences and skill sets and just get exposure without having to go to business school in many cases. In fact, Kara Smith, shout out to Kara, I work with her at Vista now. She ran the Veterans Integration Program at Goldman, and we work together. So it's special that we work together now at Vista. But anyways, there's a bunch of great programs out there. VIP's one of them. I think they call it something else now, but Goldman's always been a very veteran-friendly organization and really helped me. So got the experience, worked my tail off, which I think the second lesson learned for me, just to share with the audience, you got to get your mindset right. You are behind. Like, you just are. You have a peer group that has been doing this job for 6 years while you've been overseas deployed. And yes, it's a noble thing. Yes, you learn very valuable skills. It will matter. Those skills will be transferable, but they're not transferable at day one.
Hmm.
And so you've got to eat a little bit of humble pie, and you've got to get the entry level job at a great organization that's going to invest in you and train you, and work your tail off to build the number of experiences, the reps, and the skill sets that you need to be at parity with the rest of the people in your peer group that have just been doing it. And it's okay. It doesn't suck. It just is what it is. And like, get over it, embrace the suck, go work hard and go catch up. And you can outwork anybody. You can always outwork anybody. And everybody in the military knows that. So that was the name of the game for me at Goldman. I thought Goldman was going to be, the direct transition point to private equity. It wasn't for me. I had an amazing opportunity to go work for a military veteran, a West Point grad. But his name's Chris Shue. Shout out to Chris if you're listening to this. He is an amazing mentor to me to this day. I was introduced to Chris through my military veteran network. At the time, he was the chief operations officer at Hewlett Packard Enterprise. I had a buddy who preceded me at Goldman by a year who went and worked for him. And he said, "You've got to meet Chris. Why don't you come down to Palo Alto one day and have breakfast with him?" And I was still at Goldman. I think I had, gone to bed at 3 a.m. I woke up at 6 to go drive down there bleary-eyed. But I was like, this guy's amazing. I just want to learn everything from him. And just, if he takes me on as a mentee, great. But if not, network, right? Like, I just love to get to know him. And so I did. Hour and a half later, he basically offers me a job to go be his chief of staff because he was about to spin off the software business from Hewlett Packard Enterprise and have it be its own publicly traded business called Micro Focus. He was going to merge it with a UK company called Micro Focus. And he's like, "Do you want to go be my chief of staff?" And I was like,
Yes.
yeah. I mean, it's not private equity, but yet, like, yeah, hell yeah. Like, that sounds amazing. And I want to learn from you. And, if those lines converge with private equity again, great. But like, soldier of fortune, right? Like, let me go out and do this thing and figure it out. And let me listen to what life's telling me to do a little bit. So I went and did it. And it was an incredible experience. I've never worked harder in my life. But I learned so much from Chris. And you talk about the power of mentors. This is another lesson for the audience. Find people who invest in you, who will mentor you. Even better if it's somebody who comes from the world that you came from and knows how to translate those experiences, not just for you, but for other people who can be influential to you. That was Chris for me. He took me into every board meeting, every meeting with our executive team. He put me, much like the officer of the deck on the destroyer at 24. I'm like, "You really trust me with this?" Like, he gave me the keys to some of our most strategic customer relationships and the projects with them. And it was a mountain of responsibility, but man, did it accelerate my learnings and give me amazing experiences inside of a business to learn how this world really works. I reached a natural point after that where it was time to transition. And then I made the transition to private equity. And, the last lesson learned, I think, just to share with others that are thinking about making this transition, is you kind of stole the thunder from me, Beau, but like, the power of the network. The way that I made the jump to private equity happen was through the network. In the private equity world, there's basically two ways to get hired. One is you're kind of a cookie cutter candidate. And I don't mean that disparagingly. There's incredibly smart people that come through this path, but cookie cutter, graduated from a top Ivy League school, went to an amazing investment bank, and now it's time to go get hired at, an associate or an analyst level position at a tier one private equity firm. That is not me. Never going to be me, not going to be me. So like, what's path B? Path B is you go do your homework and you figure out the funds where your unique skill set is most valued, and you build the relationship there and you convince them that they should hire you and only you, because only you can uniquely add value. to deliver against their strategy at the fund. And so that's what I did. And so for 6 months, I literally blasted my entire network. Chris helped me with his network. I made shameless asks of anybody that I talked to. Now that you know me, like, is there somebody else that I should talk to that knows this world? Are there any funds where you think, operationally focused person with finance experience and software experience that would value the convergence of those three things? Lo and behold, I met TVC Capital. I met Jeb Spencer and Steve Hammerslag, and it was the perfect firm for me. It was operationally focused. It was down in San Diego, near where our family's located. It was B2B software focused. I came from a software company. I knew what that was like to build software and to market it. And it just fit. And also, like, huge shout out to Jeb, who took a chance on me and hired me as a vice president at the fund with no private equity experience, but super valuable banking experience, operating experience, working for a CEO of a software business, and military experience, and brought me into the fund. And that started my career in private equity. And I've never looked back.
That's awesome, and I do love the fact. I mean, again, there's so much of everyone's career path that it's when opportunity meets hard work, right? I mean, you're
Yeah.
doing the hard work and the opportunity; those things, but you have to do the hard work. I mean,
You
that's
do.
the part behind the scenes, right? The opportunities
Yeah.
can come along, and if you haven't done the work, it's gonna pass you by, But
100%.
to put
Yeah.
that effort in, to know where you had that North Star you were trying to get
Yeah.
to, right? You knew what the end state was. You didn't know exactly how you were going to get there, but you weren't going to get outworked. Again,
Yeah.
that again is that grit, that embrace the suck mentality. Like, I'll do whatever it takes to, and I'll talk to I'll kiss a million frogs, but eventually you'll find the one of them will turn into a
100%.
princess, right? So that's what you got to
Yep.
do, right? But
Yep.
put yourself out there. I think you do have to be willing to be told no, willing to be vulnerable, willing to be like told you're. It's not easy, but it's what you have to do to be successful. That's fair to
Yeah.
say. Yeah,
100%. 100%. Yeah. You nailed it, Bo. It's just, there's no substitute for hard work. Nobody is going to come to you when you get out of the military and say, here you go, here's the dream job.
yeah,
Like, you've got to figure out what the dream job is. You've got to create your own trail guide to get there, and you got to navigate the waypoints on your own to get there. And when you do, it's all worth it. It's
yeah.
all worth it. But, like, got to have the right mentality, embrace the suck, make it happen, and nobody's going to outwork you. And good things will happen.
Great foundational, again, things you got from the Naval Academy that obviously
Mhm.
translated and continue to translate through life. And how, I mean, you've obviously pivoted from there to Vista in time, but I mean, how
Yeah.
when you got to that role with TVC, did you feel like, okay, I mean, was it all you expected it to be? I mean, you never know. Sometimes you get there and you're like, eh. I mean, obviously you're still in the space, so it must have been pretty
Yeah.
good, but you never know. I'm just curious,
It,
yeah,
no, it was awesome. I mean, from
yeah,
day one, the reasons why private equity was so interesting to me, or at least there's a few reasons. There's so many. Number one, like, being in a position where I can actually help and I can leverage my experiences in life, leverage the network that me, my team, my fund can bring, leverage the best practice to help these incredible founders and CEOs realize their dreams for the business, right? It's not just capital, but it's so much more than that. That was my experience from day one at TVC, and definitely my experience here at Endeavor. And we can talk about why I transitioned, if you'd like. But helping has always been a core goal of mine. I just, servant leadership, right? Like, that
yeah,
just resonates with me in my career. I'm intellectually curious. Like, I love the exercise of getting to learn new markets, new businesses, understand the competitive landscape, understand who's best positioned within that landscape, and then go back that winner and then surround them with resources to help them win. Like, and to do that many times over again across the portfolio and just go down that journey of discovery and always be learning, always figuring out kind of a little bit more of the way the world works. I'm a bibliophile. Like, you look at my bookshelf here in the office, like I just devour information and love understanding a little bit more how the world works. And that, at its core, that's a huge part of being a private equity investor. And then, ultimately, like, it's really satisfying to produce a great return for our investors who, at Vista, it's teachers, it's firefighters, it's police officers, pensions, it's endowment funds. And like having all of this culminate into an amazing return for them. My mom was a teacher. I always think of my mom when in her retirement and all that, and what all of our teachers deserve. It's something that gets me supercharged at the end of the day. So yeah, all those things, like from day one, they kind of fit. There's a lot of headache and heartache along the way too, just like with any job. But like the best highs are so high, it cancels out all the lows. You know what I mean?
That is awesome, and I love the fact that there is such a a sense of I don't know. I mean, the people you're helping because of the success of your hard work. And I love the fact that it ties the firemen, the teachers, and you don't really
Yeah,
think about that sometimes in private equity. But it's not like billionaires. It's average people that are invested, conglomerated in these funds that you're
yeah,
helping out. That's pretty cool to think of.
totally.
One kind of just again, the space in general for me is new. How many?
Yeah,
I'm just curious how many. 'Cause I've talked to a lot of founders as well that are always trying to get the capital side of it, and they get a lot of no's before they get to a
yeah,
yes. I mean,
yeah.
just from a true like nuts and bolts of the job, how
Mhm.
many pitches do you take to like 1 in 10? Do you say yes to? I have no idea. I mean, is that a thing you can like quantify, or have
Yeah,
you done so much homework that by the
yeah,
time you're talking to them, you feel pretty good it's going to be a yes?
yeah. We do talk to a lot. We talk to a lot, and each fund has a different strategy. I truly believe for a very large portion of the companies out there, larger than the ones that we invest in, there is a great private equity fund for you out there where you can be a great fit for them. For our strategy, like, it's well defined, like every strategy should be. And so some companies are going to fit it, some companies are not, but you've got to wade through a lot of companies to find the ones that are really bullseye to where it's mutual fit, right? Like, not only is it a great profile for us, but it's also one where we can add differentiated value back to the business.
Yeah.
And yeah, you have to talk to a lot of people. And again, power of the network, right? Big part of this job is like networking the heck out of the private SaaS company markets and getting to know a lot of businesses out there. I love that aspect of it too, and meeting new people. I get supercharged by being out there with people. Not everybody does. It's a big part of the job, and it's another reason why I like it. But yeah, to answer your question, it does involve a lot of conversations. Now, it's not Shark Tank. Like, I'm not
Right.
sitting back in my office and say, next, right? Like,
Right.
I'm out there getting to know the companies, getting to know their business partners, getting to know their end markets and their customers, so that it's not just a like one-way transactional conversation. Like, I can add value to every single person that I talk to and have credibility when I'm talking to them. And obviously, the penultimate goal is to grow that business into a successful outcome for them and for our fund and our investors. So it requires being out of the office all
Yeah.
the time and being in front of people. So there's sacrifice on my end to do that. But yeah, you have to talk to a lot of people.
That's awesome. No, I love that. And again, it seems like such a great fit for your personality, uh, and to be successful in this space, to be out there and continue to network, right? Not for your own good necessarily, for the company's growth. I mean, so out
Yeah,
there talking to people, and I think it's just once you get into that, it's hard. It's like I don't know. It becomes something almost need it. You need to go out there and learn new things and
you
find new
do.
things and understand the new technologies that are out there and always something new, which is great. I mean, are you seeing that a lot? I'm just again curious more about the
Yeah.
companies you're investing in. is
Yeah.
the AI world a big part of what you're doing now? And
Oh
is there an
man,
impact on that? I
huge.
mean, are you becoming an AI guy? I mean, it
Yeah,
feels to me a little scary. I'm just curious. So yeah,
huge, huge, huge. Yeah, I mean, it's redefining the entire economy, really. But software plays a big piece into it. Um, Vista, I'm so proud to be where I am. I think, one of the biggest reasons is Vista can bring outsized resources and know-how to our companies to help them realize their full potential. And in this day and age, Gen AI is the big thing for software businesses. It's our view that software is going to be totally transformed by generative AI technologies. It will be the fuel that runs software companies in the future. And we're orienting best practice now to help educate and teach our companies and train our companies in how to leverage Gen AI to build new products, to build Gen AI enabled products, and to do things in their day to day more efficiently, so they can go out and win. And yeah, I mean, it's so fun, like learning these new technologies and experimenting with it and seeing how our businesses use it and iterate and create feedback loops with each other so we quickly get to, all right, what's working and what's not. But it is like the thing this year and for many years to come. So, yeah.
that's awesome. No, I love hearing that again. I think for me, AI is still something that's it's out there. An occasional
Yeah.
GPT, but I got to get smarter on it. I know I'm a little bit of a old school, so I got to
It's fun to play. Yeah. It's fun to play
yeah.
around with it. Yeah. It's fun to experiment with it. Yeah.
Well,
Cool technology.
I truly appreciate your time today. And I know we're getting close to the end here. And again,
Yeah.
I've learned a ton and love to hear it about your journey and what made you successful, which is so much rooted in your military experience right back from the beginning of the Naval Academy. As we get ready to wrap up, any kind of closing thoughts or things you're involved with that you want to share in addition to what
Sure.
you're doing
Yeah.
in the PE space? Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, look, I'll do a quick shameless plug for Vista Equity Partners, who I love. It's an amazing place to be, amazing place to build a career. This is a place that does love veterans, and I think our values line up so well with the values and the DNA of military veterans. So whether it's in the portfolio and in Vista, like we're hungry to find great veteran talent. There are many veterans who are currently employed at all levels of our portfolio companies and do exceptionally well. Shout out to Matt Van Lan, who we just hired as our director of special projects at Gnosis Freight, military veteran, young dad, now in kind of a chief of staff role, working for a great business in Charleston. We have multiple CEOs across the portfolio who are military veterans and service academy grads, and they're just doing incredible things. And I think the DNA of Vista lines up exceptionally well with military veterans. So, to the extent that there are awesome companies or awesome roles, that your audience is interested in, we in our companies could not be more excited to have a conversation with you. And the last thing that I'll say is, Vista itself is investing a lot in our veterans employee resource group. I lead it along with a couple of my peers, some of whom are military veterans, some have just a deep affinity for the military. And, we're always looking for great service opportunities for veteran programs and also just building community for the veteran, the larger veteran community out there. So I guess just to say, Vista loves vets. I love vets. We're going to be doing more. Keep your eyes on Vista. Give me a shout out. Anybody in your audience that wants to chat. I'm personally passionate about this community and helping folks to the extent that we can.
Ryan, I love it. No more needs to be said than what you wrapped up with. Love the support and the investment that Vista is making, not only in you, but obviously the larger veteran community. Can't wait to see what the future holds for you. And hopefully we can link up soon and have a beer, man. Okay.
Yeah, I look forward to it. You're the man. Thanks, Bo. This has been really fun.
Appreciate it. Thanks, Ryan. Out here.
All right.
Thank you so much for taking the time to listen to this episode. For more content, follow us on Instagram @TheMilitaryVet or on LinkedIn. Join us at an upcoming event or learn more on our website, TheMilVet.org. Feel free to email us directly at leadership@TheMilVet.org. Thank you so much and take care.